like and subscribe. Oh Lord, I'm not good at making these intro thingies. Hey guys, it's me, Marz or whatever you want to call me. I'm here today with a totally different video than all of my previous videos, because if you look back, it's all just music. I've been sick for quite a while. I was quarantined. I was not working for like 4 months. I've just been in bed with my pillow, and I really have just been watching movies. So today I am going to give you not 1 but 10 movies for you to check out. So we are going to stick towards the horror genre, but not just any horror genre. This is going to be the 80s horror genre. This is kind of like a way for you to get to know me. I am a lover of film. I love horror movies, and I love the 80s. So growing up as a child, I've been watching horror films since I was like out of the womb. Good parenting, mom. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. So get your popcorn, get your root beer, get your Dr. Pepper, whatever you want, get your little snuggly pillow, and let's jump right into this, babes. Hope you guys enjoy. Coming in at number 1 is my favorite movie, Poltergeist. Now, I'm not doing this in any particular order, but this is my favorite movie. So we're not talking about the newer version that was released. We are talking about the 1980s version that was released. The story is about a young girl who was born into a house her father's real estate company built over dead people. Literally, they removed the gravestones and built houses over dead graves.
Son of a bitch, you left the bodies and you only moved the headstones! You only moved the headstones!
Basically, the ghost of the dead bodies of which the houses are built over came to haunt the house and kidnaps the young girl, Carol Ann. Reason being is because they're wanting to bring her to the other side in order for her to walk them into the light.
Run to the light, baby! Mommy is in the light!
How are you waiting for?
Mommy is waiting for you in the light! I hate you for that.
Poltergeist is not a 1-part series, it is a 3-part series. That's right, it is a trilogy. And my favorite happens to be part 3. In fact, my favorite scene is in part 3 where Carol Ann is running into a car garage and she's hearing the ghost's voice calling her. She then manages to step on a puddle, which the puddle turns into like this bright blue water to another dimension, and there are these gross looking hands just pulling her in. Definitely recommend checking out Poltergeist, and because I'm gonna be a little bit biased here, it is my favorite movie. I'm giving it a 10 out of 10. Now, coming in at part 2 is Bloody Birthday. Now, if you did not plan on having kids after watching this movie, you will never want to have kids. This particular movie is about 3 kids who happen to be born prematurely on the same exact day, on the same exact time. Now, for whatever reason, these kids happen to have a killer tendency. That's right, we're talking about kids who are around the age of 12 years old, running around the town, killing people for no particular reason, to be honest. Now, this movie is not as gory as some of the other movies that I will be mentioning. However, there are some graphic killings that goes on in this movie. Now, this movie does kind of bring up that tension, so sometimes, like for me, I got a bit frustrated and I was just yelling at the TV. Because I couldn't really understand how like a bunch of grown-ups were allowing these little kids to like kill them. But anyways, I definitely recommend that you check this one out. I will give it a 7 or 8 out of 10 because I do think it's worth the 7 or 8 out of 10 stars. Now, coming at number 3 is The Blob. Now, The Blob is really an old story. I think it actually goes back to like the 1950s because I have seen the older version of it. What The Blob is about is the title.
A blob.
So basically, from outer space, I do believe it was like I don't want to say the wrong name, but I'm gonna say a meteor, but let's say a big rock flies out from outer space and it falls into the ground. This poor homeless dude goes in, touches the blob, and this pink stuff like dissolves his hand. Like, if you see something that looks that disgusting and bubbly, who decides to like stick a stick into it?
Why?
So basically what happens is this big pink blob grows bigger and bigger and bigger the more people that it eats. And it's really graphic, to be honest. It is very gory. So definitely, if you're into that kind of stuff, I think you are going to enjoy The Blob. But anyways, I definitely would recommend checking out The Blob. I will give this one a 7 out of 10.
Sheriff, this is Paul Taylor.
Oh, what's wrong? You said killed?
Yes, sir.
Now coming at number 4 is Summer 84. Now before I go on, I will say that Summer 84, it is not a movie that was made back in the 80s. I do believe it was made in 2017. However, it was to have like an 80s vibe. So Summer 84 is basically about a young boy who lives next door to a police officer, or I believe they call him a sheriff.
The top flight security of the world, Craig.
He believed his next door neighbor was the
child lover
that was basically going around kidnapping young boys. So the police officer goes to great lengths into trying to prove to the boy, hey, I am not
child lover.
The story then goes on to introduce the boy's friends, who ends up helping him in finding who the killer and
child lover
actually is.
I mean, did you see how fast that one learned to drive a speeder bike and then ditch it without even being spotted?
Is there gore in this movie? Not a crazy amount, but there are a few scenes that are a bit graphic. I can definitely say that. I will not say what's my favorite parts of the movie, because if I do, it does give away like who the killer was. However, I will go ahead and give this movie an 8 to 9 out of 10 because honestly the story was really great, the suspense was amazing, and I was yelling at the TV. Coming at number 5, this one is called Demons Part 2. So it starts with this girl having this really awesome 80s type birthday party.
Look at all these people putting their hands on this cake.
Coronavirus! Coronavirus!
Basically what happens is she watches this movie about a demon, and the demon comes through the television, and then she turns into a demon, and basically she goes out into her party, turns everybody else in her party into a demon, then they come out and turn everybody else in the building into a demon. The story also revolves around a pregnant woman and her husband. Her husband does get stuck in an elevator with another woman while there are demons roaming around the apartment, potentially looking to kill his own pregnant wife. I definitely do recommend watching Demons 2. It has a lot of suspense, there's a lot of jump scares, and actually I gotta say I was very impressed with the production of the movie, considering CGI was not really a thing back then in the 80s. So out of 10, I gave that one an 8 to 9 out of 10 because all around there was a lot of action in it. Coming at number 6 is Sleepaway Camp, or Camp Sleepaway. You may or may not heard this movie. However, this movie is about a young girl named Angela and her brother who are sent away to summer camp. Angela, as opposed to her brother, she's more introverted, she never really spoke and did not have any friends. There were some kids who were going missing and kids who were being killed. However, the counselors did not know who was doing it.
You never do
It's not that strong on gore, however, again, there are some scenes that are pretty graphic. Now, out of 10, I would definitely give this movie a 9 out of 10 because I love the suspense, and honestly, you were not expecting the ending. So coming at number 7 is The Twilight Zone. Yep, that's right. The Twilight Zone is not just a TV series, it was a movie as well.
It is an area which we call the Twilight Zone.
However, the Twilight Zone movie did not revolve around one story. It had not one, but 3 stories piled into one movie. In particular, my favorite was definitely the last story that was in the movie. It did revolve around a teacher who was kidnapped by a young boy with super powers. It was very trippy, to be honest. Weird looking monsters. If I do have to rate it, I will give that one a 9 out of 10. I definitely enjoyed the Twilight Zone movie. At number 8, we have Return of the Living Dead. Now, I was actually surprised that a lot of my friends did not know what this movie was about, or they didn't even know about this movie. If you have heard of Night of the Living Dead, it is the original, or one of the original zombie movies. It is a black and white picture. However, in the 80s, they did release Return of the Living Dead. If you do enjoy Stranger Things because of like the soundtrack, I do definitely think you will enjoy Return of the Living Dead. There are those standard 80s characters dressed in grunge, your 80s bad boy. The story goes that this young man gets a job at a warehouse that collects things such as like dead butterflies and also human skeletons. He does speak to his manager about the movie The Night of the Living Dead, after his manager was then discussing with him that they happen to contain military cans that actually was related to real zombies. They end up releasing a gas which then comes out of the building and out into the cemetery. This gas had already went throughout the whole cemetery, bringing back the dead. I definitely do recommend checking this movie. As far as gore does, it does have like your standard 80s gore. There's a lot of action. There are graphic scenes. I would recommend checking it out. I definitely love this movie. I do recommend watching it. I give it an 8 out of 10. I'm gonna take a lunch break. Get me some chicken wings. Class back in session. So coming at number 9.
I got energy now, don't I?
Coming at number 9, it is Dolls. Dolls is about a group of people, including some young motorists, who happen to have to stay the night at this couple's weird, spooky mansion. Now within this mansion, they had all sorts of dolls that resemble human beings. What this couple who owned this mansion was trying to do is get these people to stay and turn them into dolls themselves. There is graphic scenes. I would recommend watching this movie. I'm gonna give it a 6 to 7 out of 10. Definitely you should watch it and give it a chance because you probably might like it more than I did. We have come to the last one on the list. That's right, we are talking about numero 10. This movie is called The Gate. Now, The Gate is a classic movie, at least to me. I have been watching this since I was a little girl. This movie is about a young boy who lives in a house where him and his friend ultimately opens a gate to another dimension. Little demons were attempting to take over the world. There are things such as levitation that happens. The poor dog dies. But this movie is really good on the suspense. This movie also has a part 2. I personally enjoyed part 2. It didn't receive the same attention though, or at least I felt. For part 2, it is a bit more graphic than part 1. Part 2 does surround one of the original characters from part 1, and that would be Glenn's best friend, Terry. So if you ever watch part 2, Terry basically visits the old house where the old adventure happens, and he manages to reopen the gate, but this time he captures one of the little demons and actually uses it for his own personal gain of making wishes. The Gate Part 1 is not as graphic and it's not as gory, but it's very high on suspense. Story is great. However, The Gate Part 2 is way more graphic than The Gate Part 1, and it still has a great story and it does have great suspense. So I definitely recommend not only watching Part 1, but to also watch Part 2. And if I have to give this any stars out of 10, I would definitely give The Gate Part 1 a 7 out of 10, but The Gate Part 2 gets an 8 out of 10 for the graphic scenes. So that does conclude this video of some movies for you to check out. I just wanted to give you a little something to do while you're stuck in quarantine. With that being said, I do want to be more consistent with posting up videos, so I'm thinking to at least try to do this at least once per week. If you did enjoy this video or found some of the movie interesting, or heck, even if you've seen some of these movies, you're here, so just like and subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. And if you think there are any other movies that I should definitely check out, please leave them down below in the comments section. I'm gonna leave links below in the description so that you guys can follow me on some of my social medias, and I hope to see you again on the next one. Bye!